Edmonton area NDP MP Heather McPherson joins me now. Welcome, Heather. News of Idlout's floor crossing was broken by your interim party leader last night around 10 p.m. When did you find out about this defection?
Well, Don Davies took the time to call together our caucus and to explain the situation to us. And of course, I'm very, very sad that Lori has left our caucus, and I'm disappointed. I mean, we worked together to fight against some of the cuts, some of the things that the Liberal Party has done, particularly across the country and particularly in Northern Canada. So, of course, I was disappointed. However, I don't think that changes our next steps. Our next steps is we are in the midst of a leadership race.
Yeah, we will get to that in a moment. I do want to just dive down a little bit further into the Idlout departure. She had said in January that she was approached by the Liberals and that the idea of crossing weighed on her heavily. So, knowing that there were these rumors and talk about this, were you surprised by the defection, or did you see it coming? Especially because you have what I could describe as a small but also close-knit caucus.
Yeah, I was surprised. I think that as New Democrats, one of the things that we believe is that the elections are something where people choose not just who represents them, but also the party that represents them. We have long said that floor crossers should have to go back to their constituents and run as within the new party that they'd like to cross to. That's long been the policy of New Democrats, and I think that still stands. That's still something I believe in. We know Canadians vote for not just the person to represent them, but also the political party that person is part of. And so I think that Ms. Idlout has a responsibility to go back to her constituents and explain why she didn't respect their opinion in electing a New Democrat.
Now, she did say, and we played that clip at the top, that there wasn't any one specific thing that convinced her to cross the floor, but that threats to Arctic sovereignty and the well-being of the people in the North inspired her to join the Liberals to address those issues. What do you think of those reasons?
I think that as New Democrats, we have been the only party in the House of Commons that has, in fact, been, regularly and always fighting for the people in Northern Canada, for the rights of Indigenous people across this country. I think that has been New Democrats that has been doing that work. We hold the government accountable to the promises that they've made to Canadians. So for me, I'm going to continue to do that work, but I think that is something that we very clearly have championed and have been in the front of for a very long time.
Now, you said that people don't just elect their MP, they do look at the party as well. But the Liberals argue the opposite, right? They're saying that Canadians voted for a local MP to represent them, as in terms of their constituents, not to represent a specific party. Now, Idlout says she did what she thought was best for her constituents. You said, of course, she'll have to go back to them and see how they react. But she said she did this decision after having conversations already with her constituents. So what do you say to that?
I think what I mentioned earlier. I mean, as a New Democrat, I honestly believe that the people that elect us because we are New Democrats and because of who we are as people. I think that this is a very convenient thing for the Prime Minister to say right now as he tries to cobble together a majority that he was not given by the people of Canada. I think it's interesting that now he says that it doesn't matter which party you're from. I think that's perhaps not as honest as he could be with Canadians. And I think that we all are very aware that we run under party banners and that party platforms and what parties stand up for and the values that parties hold is one of those things that people across Canada consider when they elect their representatives.
Now, your party is down to 6 members in the House of Commons, and we have, of course, reported already that one of your members, Alexandra Boulerice, is considering, he said last month, a jump to provincial politics. What does that say about your party? Should the party be taking more stock of how this happened?
So first of all, with regards to Alex Bouleris, I mean, I am so proud to work with Alex. He's such a dear friend of mine, and I'll let him speak to his future. Of course, what happened in April in the last election was not good for New Democrats. But we are in the process of rebuilding our party. We are electing our next leader in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully, it will be me, but we will see how that goes. And the rebuilding of our party starts. I think that.
But how do you rebuild? In addition to, and we can get to leadership in there, but what does the NDP need to do to actually come back from this?
I think across the country, I mean, I've been traveling from coast to coast. I think Canadians across the country see the value and the need for a strong party that is fighting for healthcare, that is fighting for real action on housing, really representing the needs of working class Canadians. The fact of the matter is our healthcare is in disrepair, and we are not hearing anything from the Conservatives or the Liberals. It was New Democrats. It was Tommy Douglas and New Democrats that got us Canadian healthcare, and it is going to be New Democrats that will protect it. So frankly, I think rebuilding our party is us talking to Canadians from coast to coast to coast about how important it is that we have a strong New Democratic Party that is pushing this government to fulfill the promises that they made to Canadians. I mean, this government promised action on housing that they're not delivering on. This government promised action on healthcare that they are not delivering on. Mark Carney has not said one thing against the breaking of the Canada Health Act, the breaking of Canadian law that is being done by the Premier in my province, Danielle Smith. So there is an awful lot that Canadians need New Democrats in the House doing. We're the ones that are going to fight for workers' rights. We're the ones that are going to make sure that workers' rights are legislated into law. And we're the ones that are going to hold this government accountable.
Now, as you mentioned, the NDP leadership race is underway. You're one of 5 candidates in the running. Despite being the only one with a seat in the House of Commons, you are trailing Avi Lewis in fundraising. What does that signal to you?
Honestly, I think our goal of this whole campaign has been to be out in Canada, speaking to members in communities large and small. That's been the focus. I mean, my campaign has been about building a table for New Democrats, building a bigger table for Canadians, so that there's a place for everyone at that table. So that folks from the labor movement feel welcome within our movement. Folks from every part of this country feel welcome. Folks that were New Democrats that perhaps went somewhere else in the last election feel welcome coming back to our party. That's the campaign that we're launching. That's the campaign that we're running. I am a member of Parliament. I have been elected 3 times. I do know how to win. I do know how to get more New Democrats elected. I think that's the proposition that I can bring forward.
Well, thank you very much for your time today. That's Alberta NDP MP Heather McPherson. Laurie Idlout's defection to the Liberals leaves the NDP at just 6 MPs in the House of Commons. Speaking to reporters today, the party's interim leader, Don Davies, said floor crossings undermine the democratic process.
The position of the New Democratic Party on floor crossing is long-standing and clear. To us, the decision of voters at the ballot box is a sacred trust. And if a member of Parliament wants to override that decision, we believe they must go back to the voters and make that case to them and receive a renewed mandate.
Idlout's decision to cross the floor follows a tough and historic election loss for the New Democrats. For more on how the party plans to move forward, I am joined by Mary Shortall, president of the New Democratic Party. Welcome to the show. Mary, what was your reaction to the news when it first broke from your own party last night?
Thanks, Karina. Obviously, it's disappointing. I mean, it is. There's been a lot of devastating losses and a lot of inward thinking and a lot of discussions around rebuilding in the party. But I think to Don Davis's point, the most disappointing part is that it really is the voters, not politicians, who should decide the parliaments. And this government has been doing this now. Voters decided in April, not even a year ago, that there was not going to be a majority government. So I think Don Davies said stitching together a majority government by getting people to cross the floor is deeply undemocratic. I think those were his words, and we support that. But So it's not so much the person who does it or the people who do it, it's the system itself that doesn't honor the decisions of the voters at the ballot box. And so there's lots of rebuilding we have to do. We understand that. And we're getting to that, and I believe we'll get there. We just are in a leadership now. We've heard for months and months and months. We've heard from thousands of New Democrats. I heard some of your previous speakers talk about the importance of holding government's feet to the fire. And I do believe that the NDP is very focused on that. They've done an incredible job, even with 7 MPs, of holding this government's feet to the fire. Lives haven't changed a lot for millions of Canadians still. There's still people who can't afford to make ends meet, that they're having trouble paying their bills, that they're not seeing the changes that were promised to them in a pre-election period. And the NDP has been consistently that party that has done that and will continue to do it. I believe that there are, like your previous speaker said, millions of people out there who understand that we can't be a two-party system, that we absolutely have to have a strong opposition to hold those governments decisions and to power. And I think it's
Mary, how
opposition parties to do that.
When you're trying to rebuild, you're coming off not a great election, to state it mildly, and now you have this defection from the party. What do you think when you have a new leader at the end of this month? What is the first thing, or the first 2 things, the first 3 things that leader has to do to convince Canadians that the NDP is still relevant?
Well, I do believe that the new leader, when they're elected in a couple of weeks from now at convention, will have to talk to Canadians about the priorities of the NDP and convince Canadians in general that the NDP is the party that represents the interests, is focused on the progressive voice of Canadians. But more importantly, I think, for the thousands and thousands of NDPers who have felt very strongly about this loss and very strongly about all the reasons why that happened, and they've been contributing for a long period of time, both at the provincial, regional, and federal levels, about how we move forward. They will want to hear from that leader that there is a vision to go forward on that, that there is new members who are coming to the party, and we're already seeing that in this leadership race for sure, that we have the ability to rebuild, that we've done it before, and that we're still consistently the voice of ordinary Canadians, of working people right across this country who haven't actually heard their voice being heard since this election happened.
But what does it say to voters if one of your other still remaining MPs, one of your 6 MPs, Alexandre Boulerice, talking out loud that he's considering a jump into provincial politics? It might not be that, he doesn't believe in the NDP anymore, but if you were to lose him as well, what does that tell voters and Canadians?
Well, it tells voters and Canadians that there's absolutely a need for a renewal. There's absolutely a need to rebuild this party, and it takes time, and the things have been happening as we go along in a leadership convention. People have been talking about what they think works, what they think doesn't work, how they see that hope in the future. Again, the system is a system where the government is trying to build a majority government in a way that's undemocratic. But the party, people need to see that there's an alternative and a focus. And that happens when you develop strength, when you build a party, when there's an excitement about that. And I'm seeing that, and we've seen that coming out of the ashes of a devastating election.
Are you concerned that there might be any more defections?
Well, we don't know that, do we? So it's not so much the concern about people leaving the party, I think, at this point. I think what we need to do, we have a convention in 2 weeks from now. We know that this federal government has been trying to secure a majority government for whatever reasons it has. And we need to make it very clear that this government, this party, but it's focused, laser focused on making sure that people have a strong progressive voice, and that there are many other people in this party that are taking on the tasks now of becoming candidates, of doing the work that it needs, of talking to people. And the caucus has been doing a great job, even though it's small, at holding government to account. And so we'll need to take that time to do that. But I have a lot of hope that we'll actually be able to do that.
Well, I really appreciate your time on this. Thank you, Mary Shortall, President of the NDP.